Hello everyone and welcome back for another video. Today I'm joined by the free roll aka my good buddy Kobra, and today we'll be doing a twofold part video where one, we're going to be going over the patch notes of 0.21, the next patch to arrive over at August 29th, the first big patch on the closed beta for the ParallelTCG. So let's finally go to the Marcolians. I would say this is your expertise in the field. Let's see what everybody, the devs wrote. Marcolian has been lagging behind the other parallels in rookie mode and a bit in ranked as well. So we're throwing a few more stats at some of their units to see where they land. Now, I do want to say something before we get into it, which is they reference the rookie mode quite a few times in this patch notes. And I don't really agree with this idea that the rookie mode should have that much of a power in the patch notes. Like, yes, I understand new players need to be guided and rookie mode is great for them, but they need to eventually get into the actual game with actual people in either unranked or ranked, because they will do that if they like the game, because they want more combos. And balancing for the rookie mode, I just don't see that being a good idea in the long run.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought this up because I absolutely wanted to talk about this too. I think you're right, and I think we're gonna find out with this balance changes, because personally, while I was excited to hear Marcolian getting buffed, I didn't really think that it really needed it, right? I mean, I was winning a lot of games with Marcolian before. So when I saw the rookie mode notes, it dawned on me that the Marcolian rookie deck is definitely the worst rookie deck.
Oh, for sure.
But I don't think that meant that Marcolian was the worst parallel in general.
No.
But it kind of seems like that's the conclusion that they reached. So if everybody switches to Marcolian and we're all running the same deck, then we're going to know that we were correct and that the rookie mode data was not that helpful here. But it's going to be interesting for sure. There's several cards here that are much stronger now and much more viable in the competitive scene. So I think we're going to see Marcolian as the most common parallel played come Tuesday.
Yeah, and I remember this back in the day with closed alpha and even the gray box. I used to run so many life wells and life springs and all the defenders and just pray I could go through it. Maybe I will even have to bring out Susana and just have a big heal at the end of the game or something. It is very interesting. I feel like although Marcolians are great, I still feel like there are so many tools created in the game to counter their rise per se, with like life spring, life well, defenders, earth and heal, and some other stuff. So I don't feel like Marcolian can ever be omnipotent, like the most powerful. I mean, instead of like in alpha where you had this super OP turn 3-4 kill with win, which was absolutely ridiculous, and that shouldn't happen. Yeah, that's just like, we don't even talk about that part. But yeah, I feel like they can never truly be like a 60% win rate, but definitely like a solid 53 to 55.
It's gonna be interesting. I'm really excited for when we can start seeing our own stats and data too.
Oh, that would be great.
Because I'd love to know what my win rate was before and what it changes to after this. I've got an estimate, but it's not specific, so it'll be interesting. You bring up a good point though, because while I do think that Marcolian is going to be the meta, it has a strong counter. I think that Earthen is the other candidate to be the meta parallel.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Right, and they go against each other pretty naturally. So I don't think we're going to see anything dominating in the same way that the early Cathari decks were previously. But it'll be interesting for sure. Can we talk about some of the cards here?
Yes. I will just skim through the things that don't really matter. So Ruthless Engines, just the coding change. Supply drop now goes from only drawing a card. If you assault, this costs 1 energy. This says if you assault, target unit in your hand gains armed. I think this is not really important. Like, supply drop is now still a 2 cost, and now it just gives armed. Not really useful, will not be played in my opinion. Do you agree?
Yeah, nobody's gonna play supply drop.
All right, great. Then let's just go to the big changes, which is Unseen Commando going from 1 health to 2 health. And then if you don't know the ability, everyone, it says that if you have activated Assault, it gets +1/+1. So it's either, now it's a 2/2. If you have Assault, 3/3 for 2 energy. Absolutely massive. And can be targeted by abilities or effects.
I'm so happy about this change. In fact, the Unseen Commando, I think, was underappreciated prior. The fact that Shroud can't just hit it with a life siphon to take it out was already really, really useful. But now it comes out as a 3/3 on turn 2, which means we have an answer for Mizra. We can take out a Mizra on turn 2 potentially.
Damn.
And it's much better. It didn't make any sense to me that Marcolian didn't have the most aggressive 2-cost unit in the game, and now it does. And it also makes it a lot more useful in the mid and late game too, right? 3/3 is not that big when you get to turn 6 or 7, but it's still a really efficient unit for 2 energy. So 3 of those in every Marcolian deck.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely love that card. Now, we go to Iron Corpse Rifleman. That goes, 2 energy cost. Says that when it enters the field, deal 1 damage to the enemy. Wait, is that its assault?
So it's just a muster.
Oh, it's just a master. Okay, master, deal 1 damage to the enemy's health. And then now it's 2/2 with armed, correct?
Yeah, 2/2 with armed now instead of 2/1.
Now, why do you like this card? Because I saw that, and I understand that it immediately activates Assault, which is great, but I just don't know if I love it. When I'm gonna have like a 1 energy crack shot, or I'm gonna have something else, I don't know why I would use this, but I want to hear your opinion as the expert.
The Iron Core Rifleman got a buff that I am quite excited about. It's not as obvious as the Unseen Commando, but it's really nice, and it makes the card a lot more useful. So it's now a 2/2 with armed, which means it's going to be a useful early game unit. Armed is really nice for taking out some of the early game units that your opponents are playing, especially when you're going against Cathari. So that part's really helpful, but it also means that I've got a unit that can trigger Assault late game. One of the things that opponents like to do to slow down Marcolians is take away their ability to trigger Assault. So you can use the Iron Core Rifleman now to trigger Assault before you're playing Lemieux or the Lancer tank or something like that, and really keep the pressure moving forward.
Yep, I like that. We'll get more into that problem when we go over the Cobra Commander deck. Now let's go through the next ones. Skimdar Scout Bite. I don't think that change matters at all. This card has been dead since the alpha changes, nerfs.
It would be cool if the vehicle deck was viable at all, but it's not
yet. Not its time. Maybe when we go onto the Planetfall expansion and we get some new vehicles onto the Earth, maybe something happens there. But yeah. So Elite Sharp Super, if I remember right, this card says that if any unit takes combat damage from this unit, it gets destroyed, correct?
Yeah, so it's like a little mini Master Poisoner.
I never really liked this card, I'll be honest. I just don't see it. Maybe you can do some sort of weird deck where you utilized supply drop, give it armed, and you have that, but it's just so niche, it's so difficult. You have so much more efficient cards, I just don't see it being played.
Yeah, I mean, considering they've made several other 2 energy units better, this one is still really tough to play. I think if they wanted it to be viable, it needed to be a 1 energy 1/1. Make it a little bit cheaper to play, but as it stands, I don't think anybody's going to really use the sharpshooter.
Yeah, yep. Then we have Fire Everything that now goes from 7 to 5 and says that draw cards equal to the highest power amongst units you control, and if any of the cards you drew were effects, you can play them for free. And I really like this card. I run this card. I usually bank it, but in case I ever get the chance to be in the late game and I have a unit, I can play this and I can draw like 2-3 cards, and they're usually effects. And if I can play like an Orbital Strike for free, I'll take that, especially with a Nullifier Acolyte or a Lord Huff.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a good one-off. What about you?
You know, I think it's now my favorite meme card, because there's going to be nothing funnier than when you've got nothing in your hands, you just drop Fire Everything and pray for a bunch of Orbital Strikes to finish the game off. I mean, when that hits, it's going to be really exciting, but it's a legendary card, so you only have one of them. It's tough. I think it's going to be really tough to work into a competitive deck, unless you're okay with just picking up one spot for a maybe. But I'm not going to put it in my deck. It's the only legendary from Marcolian I don't own, and I don't think I'd need to buy it yet.
Yeah, no, I will play it even if I had it as an apparition, which I do have this card out, but if I had it, I would play it as an apparition, because I feel now that at the 5 cost, it can be played and be viable on turn 5-6, because you're gonna have some amount of big units, and it is a big card draw, especially if you go first. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad card. I think it might have some use cases, but we'll have to see. Then the huge change, which I saw that you loved, Fire Support Base becomes a way better Grizzly Scout and a way better crew boss, basically.
Yeah. I mean, so one of the tricky things that I was always trying to do with the deck before was turn 3 a Longbow Personnel Carrier.
What a turn, yeah.
Get the extra 1/1 units, then turn 4 Grizzled Scout, and they all get the attack buff.
Yes.
Tricky to set it up though.
Very rare.
It's a 2-turn setup.
Yes.
And so sometimes when it worked, I'd finish games in turn 5, but it's hard to get off.
It's super fun though. It's super fun.
It is, but now, I mean, you could still do the turn 3 personnel carrier if you want, but you can also just do like 2/1/1, or 2/1 or 2 energy units.
Whatever, yeah.
Fill up your board, but now you play Fire Support Base. You get the Defender. It can do damage when it gets attacked, and it provides that immediate +1/+1 to everything. It is much stronger.
Good. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. It's such a good change. Finally, something good, It's like, it's the mid-game Marcolians never had.
I mean, I really think you turn 4 this, and it's pretty over in a lot of cases.
Like, you need to be so out control. Like, your opponent, as we talked about, Earthen are gonna have Virulent Spores, and if they didn't get it by turn 3, oh boy.
That's another spot where this helps a ton, right? Because the Grizzled Scout did nothing to help you survive against Virulent Spores.
True.
Fire Support Base does, right? You can put it on the outside, so your defender is going to survive that initial hit. And that +1/+1 means that a lot more of your units can survive at least one round, which is going to make a huge difference against Earthen.
Mm-hmm. And then we got the very weird chains. Crackshot goes from a 2 cost to 1 cost, and Crackshot says deal 3 damage to your opponent's health. Very weird chains. I did not expect them to touch Crackshot. Getting it to a 1 energy. Now, we talked about this before. It felt a little bit weird having a 2 energy, 3 damage to your opponent's face, because you already have, what was it? Desperate Measures that deals 3 damage to yourself and any target.
Determined Assault. But
Determined Assault, yes, sorry. Determined Assault, yes. And now you have a Crackshot on a 1 energy cost, 3 damage. That's insane. That's absolutely mad.
It changes this deck so much, because when it was 2 energy, you really couldn't play it in the early game. I mean, you could, but it was a bad use of your energy in the early game. Now, for 1 energy, it can be very good. I am really excited for the first time that I draw a crack shot and 2 Marcolian Bannermen.
Oh my god. Oh.
Bannerman turn 1, turn 2 a second
Yo.
Bannerman, and then a crack shot to buff
So
both of them.
very interestingly enough, in my Marcolian deck, as I took the Kobra commander, did my own changes, I actually don't play Bannerman because I found them way too slow and unreliable, because I felt like I could use the energy in more ways, and we'll get into that on the next part. But now I just have to rethink about it. You're absolutely correct. Like having a 1 energy, 3 damage, I can't say no, you know?
Yeah, I mean, on turn 3 you can lead with the crack shot to trigger assault and then get a unseen commando out. There's all sorts of ways that you can use it, and now you're going to want to hold on to your crack shots early. I used to mulligan those every single time.
Yeah.
And then bank it if I got it early, because just you can't play it until the later rounds. But now you can play it early and often. I'm excited. It definitely makes things a lot more viable. But the other thing is, I mean, you could potentially have.
Maybe I should stop you there, because we've already talked 20 minutes, I think, about Marcolians, and I think people would like to talk about the rest of the patch notes, and we'll get into more Marcolians in the next part, because I know we both are very passionate about them, but I need to cut us off, you know?
Fair enough.
All right, so let's go over to the last parallel. We also have Universal, but the last parallel is Shroud. And I think this is kind of a little bit of a nothing burger when it comes to their changes, because as we said before, they have this weird rookie queue balance nodes. So Shroud has been relatively high performing in rookie mode and has a couple of strong ranked decks as well. We're starting off with a somewhat light touch. Let's see if it keeps them from a good place. Now, I'll skim over them a little bit fast, and if there's anything you feel like we should touch upon more, you can tell me. But Separate of the Fallen no longer banishes your own cards when they would enter the waste. I never saw anybody play Separate of the Fallen. I don't believe this card makes any sense to play. It's very slow, very inefficient, does not make any sense for Shroud when you have so many better cards for them. Then we have Dark Dealings, which is one of my favorite cards, but it doesn't get balance chains. It only gets hit with the code chains, I guess. I don't know how you would call that. Void Runner. Sorry?
Yep, you're exactly right.
Yeah. Void Runner, I really love that they changed it. It was so boring and monotonous before. Now it is actually very fun. So Void Runner, deal 1 damage to target enemy unit. If that unit is destroyed this turn, banish it. So previous was like put target enemy unit from the singularity to your hand. Now you can banish a unit. I like this. Targeted 1 damage. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a minor change, but it makes the Void Runner a lot more useful in Shroud decks. I think you're going to see it quite a bit more.
Awesome. Then the biggest change, I think you could say, in the Shroud, it's Spectre Attackcraft combat damage ability now only triggers on your own turn, which is very big. And then its new abilities, or keyword stuff, it still has evasive. After this unit deals combat damage on your turn, reveal banked enemy card, draw a card. If the unit has banked upgrades revealed, any banked upgrades revealed, you may put a random card from your singularity into your hand instead. So I think this change nerfs it, but I still see a lot of people use it. I still think it's a very viable card that just gives so much card draw to yourself. It's absolutely insane, especially if you go first on Shroud.
Yeah, it's Spectre Attackcraft, and going first with Shroud is massive, because you get a lot of cards from this, and I think this does make sense. It was having it on both turns was really wild. In fact, there were times when I was just overfilling my hands. You get so much out of the singularity. So I think this makes sense, and you're still definitely going to see the Spectre Attackcraft everywhere.
So the weirdest change for me, and I think these next 2 balance changes are specifically for rookie mode. I don't know if you would agree, but the flat circle going from a cost 2 to 3 is wild to me. Why does it cost 3 now? It was already underplayed, already underused. The most usage it had was for tokens, and that's barely like what? Maybe a rack, maybe workshop, maybe a paragon. Like, I don't feel like this makes any sense apart from the rookie mode. Yeah,
now I don't know why you would have a flat circle in your deck, if I'm being honest. It's it makes me really sad too because it's one of my favorite perfect loops.
Oh, it's
such a
so beautiful.
card, but
Yes. Yes.
I just, I honestly I had it in there as just for tokens and just so that I could play the perfect loop. Now it's coming out.
Yep, I absolutely agree. And then Spider Drone from 4 attack to attack, whatever. Who cares about Spider Drone? It's useless right now.
Yeah, I mean, spider drones don't last to make their attack very often, anyways. It's,
Who cares?
it's a weird card.
Really, who cares? I'm sorry to say this. Shroud, who cares? A lot of balance changes based on the rookie mode, and a great change on Spectrecraft just to make it a little bit more friendly for everybody, opponents and players. Then to Universal, the best change by far is the Artifact Appraiser that says now ability change from gaining stats on Master to Has. So the buff is applied whenever you control a relic, not just if you control a relic when you play an Artifact Appraiser. The buff is removed when you no longer control a relic, and I love this because it's like a buff and a nerf almost. So yeah. I really love this. It balanced the game out a lot more. People can actually counter this card. And now also instead of a 3-3, it becomes a 3-2, which is also a PS8 launcher target, and I really appreciate the change. And I think this overall doesn't nerf it to the ground, but doesn't allow it to be overbearing as it was.
Yeah, this is an example of a really good change, for sure. I thought changing the buff was super obvious. Making it a 3-3 for 1 energy was just nasty, but so I thought maybe it would change to +1/+1, +2/+0 works just as well. I love that they changed it to a relic being present, because now the order that you play them in isn't as important, but also there's benefit to removing the relics, which is harder to do. So there needs to be more benefit to doing
Interesting
that.
enough, relic removal has been underperforming ever since the alpha. Like, people have not been playing relic removal. Like, even EMP Shockwave at 3 cost, and like the other unit that destroys relic, like nobody plays that stuff anymore. It's very interesting.
Yeah, there's just not a lot of unit remove or relic removal cards that are very good. So tough to play those.
Exactly, agree. That's why I believe Tree of Nehemiah on Earth is absolutely busted, and people just don't seem to see that. Anywho, Searstone, the top card of your deck is now only revealed to you, not your opponent. So the new ability is that the top card of your deck is always revealed to you. Activate, destroy that friendly card you control, waste the top card of your deck. Searstone is absolutely useless for ranked mode, competitive mode, but I feel like when we get into draft mode, which is something that exists in main TCGs, where you get random cards each turn and you build a deck through random cards, it will have a spot, I think, and this goes there, but there's no way you're ever gonna see this in ranked.
Yeah, there's a few cards. This is definitely one of them where you have to forecast a future game mode to understand why the card is even in the set at all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Because if you have like, Star Map or Star Chart, whatever it's called, like that's a trillion times better, right, than the Searstone.
Yeah.
And then you have Black Market Fixer going from a 3-3 to a 2-2. Now, for me, probably the best universal card to exist in the beta right now, the most playability, the most flexibility. It got nerfed already in the alpha, and then it comes in beta and still super strong as a 4-cost 3-3 that destroys a unit that is 2 energy or less. Now we see it as a 2-2. Do you feel like this will make people not want to play it?
No. I think everyone's still gonna play it.
Yeah.
I think it's a good adjustment though, right? Because 2-2 it's less threatening on the field now. You're still able to get rid of a really big unit. 2 energy is a really key one because there's a lot of self-buffing or units that buff up quickly for 2 energy, right? Hydra, combat veteran, all sorts of stuff. So being able to get rid of those is super helpful. And there's just too many of them in the game to not run Black Market Fixer. But it's 2-2 is smaller, so I think it's less obvious a smart play now on turn 4 and a good change.
Yep, I have to 100% agree. And now let's talk a little bit about what we feel the meta is gonna be like, what all these changes mean. But most importantly, before we start the conversation, the most important conversation to start is, how do you truly feel about this patch? Like, for me, let me give you the example, is I feel like the game will either live or die by the patch notes, how fast they happen and how accurate they are for the fun of the players, but also the competitive side of the player base. Now, for me, I feel like 1 month is okay. It's not too much, not too little. If there's no like really bad deck that overpowers everything, 1 month is not bad. But I also want to see some big changes in that 1 month. I don't want small changes. And I feel like this is like the middle ground. It's not small changes, it's not big changes. So for me, I feel like the big changes are definitely towards the universal cards and the Cathari parallel. And I feel those change, and the Marcolians actually as well. Let's not lie there. So big nerfs on the Cathari, big buffs on the Marcolian, great changes on the universal. And I feel like Shroud didn't really get changed that much or at all. I feel like there's a weird nerf for Jury Rigged on the Ogden core, so not a really big change there. And then the Earthen get a small buff, which will make them even better. So overall, I give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. I think it's in a good place, and I think the devs and the balance team will learn and keep learning from what they do and make even better patches in the future.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10, so just a little bit better than you scored it.
Solid.
There's some things that I love, right? What did we complain about right before beta launched? No patch notes. I told them they need to give us patch notes. We got them.
Oh,
so
please.
Good job, team.
Yes.
I think they fixed the biggest problem for sure. I think that the overall goal of making the parallels a bit more balanced in general, I think that they've achieved that. It's definitely not going to be perfect, but I think we're closer than we were prior.
Yes.
And that's the big goal. The one thing that I would love to see them add is tell us how often to expect this, right? I mean, you just mentioned a month is a pretty reasonable amount of time to test things out, things like that. I'm good if that's the answer, but can we find out like, hey, we're going to review this every month at the end of every month, or maybe that's just during beta. Maybe once they get to open launch, it's going to be a little bit longer period or a little bit shorter perhaps, but just tell us what to expect. Especially because some of these cards are very expensive, right? I mean,
during Juggernaut being 1 Ethereum cost that it's in SE form, special edition form, is that's pretty expensive right now. And I feel like things prices are only gonna, this is not financial advice.
It's not.
But the price will go up as the game becomes open beta, goes to full release, the bear market becomes a bull market, etc., etc.
Well, plus this cycle's not going to stop, right? So the open beta launched, everybody said, holy cow, that Cathari opening is insane. And they went out and bought nucleotic synthesizers. You know what? I bought 3 of them, including a couple special editions. And they were, they got to be kind of expensive. So the card gets nerfed. People are upset they spent money on it. You just have to be careful about how you approach these sorts of things, right? So some transparency around how often to expect that, right? Because balance changes are going to happen. If you buy a card, it's got a potential to change, right? Just let us know when and how often to expect that to happen, so that we can factor that into our purchase decisions.
I feel like more than a month could be detrimental to the competitive side. I'll be honest. I saw, I played Magic the Gathering, Hearthstone, Legends of Runeterra, Marvel Snap, all Gwent back in the day, like all these games, all these TCGs, and like being slow and too safe with your patch change, like patch notes and balance changes, kills the game beyond repair. Kills them. I'll tell you that much. So for me, 1 month, I think it's way more than enough. I could even do 2 weeks, but I don't want to, because as you said, like, because of the prices, I don't think they should take into consideration the prices, but I do think the sentiment of the people that, hey, maybe we can have like a month of playing with these cards, you know, it's not a bad idea.
It's a balance, right? Because you're right. Too slow will kill the game. Everybody just move on to playing something else. And Disney's got a new TCG coming out.
Yeah, Jesus.
You know, you definitely don't want to be too slow, but too fast is going to frustrate people as well, right? And
yes,
and even more than that, the team has to be able to actually implement the changes and not break things when they do so, right? So you don't want to rush stuff and then put out a broken product either. So don't make any of the mistakes, Parallel team. Do everything perfect and you're fine. But it's tough, right? So that's why I like the transparency. Is just
I love it,
and that helps.
I love it as well. So as far as what the potential meta is, I think we are in a complete agreement that the trifecta exists. Marcolian versus Earthen, and a little bit of Shroud in there will fight each other because they're all yin-yang, you know. Marcolian defeats Shroud, Shroud defeats Earthen, Earthen defeats Marcolian. In general, right, there's a lot of changes, but in general, that is the play there. And then you have this weird now Cathari and Ogenkor that exist on the sides, like two little brothers now. I feel like Neus and ATO might have some interesting things happening, and I also feel that with the bug fix on Kethramine, we'll have Jean maybe coming back potentially.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some interesting Yan decks out there.
Yeah. So, is there anything else I missed? Do you feel like there is anything else from the differences in, like, a different meta opinion or anything there?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's the Marcolian meta in general. Although,
of course, I can understand. I can see it in your eyes, the glint, the Marcolian glint.
It's I mean, that's my prediction for sure. But like I said, I think it's going to be fairly balanced. I don't think anything is truly unplayable, at least from a parallel perspective, right? I mean, vehicles is unplayable, but
yeah, overall.
The other thing that I'm excited to see is you hinted at it earlier. Are we going to get a bunch more Shoshana? Because
true.
With more Marcolian hitting the board, I think Shoshana is a pretty nice answer as well.
Then extra health at the start, that's 2 orbital strikes. That's not easy to get through.
It's fun to try and race to 40. I really enjoy those games. Not very many people play it, but when they do, I say, hey, I'm gonna get you to 40 before you play Shoshana, and we're just gonna try. It makes for an interesting game. So I hope to see there's more of it.
But yeah, if there isn't anything else, this has been the Pat's Notes with both me, Sentiens, and Kobra from the Free Roll. And if you guys liked it, make sure to, like the video, subscribe for more content on both of our channels. Make sure to comment down below with any questions or opinions you might have. Also ring that notification bell to be up to date with any of our new videos. And we'll see you all on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Later.